Looks like it's that time of year already. We're digging fleece out front sheds. I've got quite a few, some thick, some quite thin. The really cheap stuff that you get that rips when you look at it. But they still do offer a little bit of protection. That's all we're looking for. This is that really cheap stuff that you get. You can virtually see through it. But your plants will still appreciate it. Majority of plants we've got in here are okay. Things like your carrots and cabbages, they're going to be alright. They don't really need any fleece. If it gets quite extreme like it did last year, when it's dropping down to the -5 and -6, it doesn't hurt to put a little bit of something over the top of them when they're outside. But when they're in a greenhouse, it's just like being in a cold frame, so they don't need as much protection, especially since we're only growing cold hardy plants. The only thing I would be wary of is if anybody's growing Christmas potatoes, and I know a few people have mentioned that they are, then you want to get those covered up straight away, even if it is only -1, which it was here the other day. We had his first frost that year, and I've noticed on weather forecast we've got some up and downs, aren't we, this coming week. We're going to get sunny days, we're going to get some cloudy days. We've got a bit of rain, aren't we, I believe tomorrow, but then at night time when it's not cloudy and it's quite clear, we're going to start and get -1 temperatures, and that's going to turn tops of your potato plants black. And then unfortunately that shoot's going to die off and your potato will try and send up a brand new one. And if you're growing potatoes for Christmas, you haven't got time for that to happen. So get some fleece over the tops of those potato plants. I've just got a few seedlings in here. That's my main concern. The very small plants are more susceptible to be damaged. Although this one has already been through war, and it's not the frost that's got to it, it's slugs once again. A couple of cabbages and a couple of kale we were growing, they've devastated that kale. The cabbage plants aren't so bad, but we have got one of those as well. It's basically gone. So we've not had much luck with those. Any plants of this size, that's spinach and lettuce, I chuck a bit of fleece over the top of them. They're more susceptible to damage, and you'll notice if they've been caught by it because the leaves will start to discolour. And most plants can recover, but you've got to be careful with your small seedlings if you've got any left, because they're liable to get hit and just die. I have said that we're not too bothered about these carrots. They seem to be doing perfectly fine. I've noticed we've got a couple of carrot tops stuck out, which is not good. They'll turn green if we don't cover those up. But we got some nice little carrots out here the other day, and it was really nice and sweet when we cooked them as well. Perfect. But we're not looking at carrots today, we've already done that. I have once again come out to check on those broad beans. Still nothing. But that's another thing, when you're trying to germinate your plants from seed and we get this sort of weather come, just cover everything over with a couple of layers of fleece. That's just going to keep that soil a little bit warmer and help those seeds germinate. Because if they stay consistently damp while they're trying to germinate, your seeds are more likely to rot. So if you've got any nice thick fleece, you can chuck that on and maybe double it up. Keep those seed trays nice and snug, at least for this week. Garlic and onions, they'll just shrug it off. It's not going to bother them at all. And your peas should be alright as well if you're growing any peas. But as always, if we get a consistency and minus temperatures, it doesn't hurt once again to just chuck a bit of fleece over the tops of your plants, and they'll reward you for doing that by carrying on growing very slowly but without any damage to them. Any damage to your plants is going to set them back, and at this time of year we haven't got time for that. Lettuce will be alright as well, that's very cold hardy. So are your strawberry plants. Sorry Dandy, I keep mentioning strawberries, but I'm just so surprised that we're still getting strawberries at this time of year. It's definitely going to be the last of them, but I think Dandy's had a bit of a struggle with strawberries this year, but it has been a very unusual year, so I'm quite sure that next year is going to be a lot better for you, and especially if you've got new plants, because they're not forced to give you much of anything on your first year, but usually they'll explode with fruit on the second one, the third one and the fourth one. And your little strawberry plants can keep producing for up to 5 years, so you've got plenty to come. So it's just one of those check around Sundays. We know what's coming, so get prepared for it. I'm not going to bother with these carrots. I think they'll be perfectly fine, and the ones I've just put on that bench behind me, because they're already established. Just keep your mind on anything that you might be growing that's not quite as cold hardy or is a very small plant at the moment, because they're the ones that will get hit the most. I've got a cabbage outside in a container. That's been out for the last couple of nights, and we have had frost, and it's just basically sat outside in a pot. Got no protection whatsoever, and it looks perfectly fine. I'll show you. That's this one. We looked at it recently and it's advanced a bit more as well. We're starting to see that cabbage curling up in centre now. We have got a little bit of damage to it, but not too much to concern me. But to be sat outside in these temperatures and still happily growing away is brilliant. We just need to remember to get rid of these. Just keep pulling off those old damaged leaves from bottom and leave that stem there. It's this part that we care about, and anything at the bottom is just going to attract slugs, especially if it's already been eaten. And I've left my beetroot outside as well. The leaves don't look brilliant, but we're not looking for leaves on this occasion, we're looking for little bulbs. And we have got some forming. You can see there's one just down there. So we are going to get a little bit of something from this. But once again, beetroot's very cold hardy. There's one or two forming, nothing brilliant, but we just have to be patient with things like this. We'll get something out on it. But meanwhile, that will stand there through frosts and it'll be perfectly alright. I'll just keep taking some of these old leaves away from it, just to make it look a little bit tidier, if nothing else. And those onions, they're doing alright, they're just not putting a lot of size on. I'm not sure if we're going to get anything from this by Christmas. We'll have to wait and see. These are those Florence long red onions. But we're not seeing much of anything from them at the moment, so we'll just leave those be, see how they get on. But at the moment, it's just a case of maintenance more than anything. A bit of tidying, covering things up. We've still got them cabbages in there, I ain't took them up yet. Let's have another look at those. That's a tiny little cabbage, but it is getting attacked. That one's a bit bigger, but again, there's no frost damage to these. I don't think we're going to be getting much anything from them, but I'll leave them be and we'll see. Everything else is now dying back slowly. All leaves have gone from this dwarf pear tree now, so it's time to give this a chop back, which I'll probably be doing this coming week. We'll get rid of all those old branches, especially the ones that are trying to grow outwards like that. I'll probably cut that one off and encourage it to grow a bit more compact and a bit taller. And then eventually we'll get round to setting up that container garden. Although I will be holding out on that next year for a little while, because we don't know what's happening at the moment. So, but a very overcast day. It's very cold, but with a little bit of extra help, your plants are going to be fine. So you can see that that cabbage outside looks perfectly healthy, and although it might be slow, it is still growing. Frost has not bothered it at all. So get your fleece out ready, just in case that temperature drops even more. And at least then you're prepared. We've got a few sheets and they'll do us. There's probably some more in shed. But when I need them, I can just grab them and drop a bit of protection on these plants. So I'm just going to take some of this quite thin one. And I'm just going to throw it over the top of those little seedlings. A very quick job to do, but it could save you quite a few plants over this coming week. So anything that you can lay your hand to, just put something over the top. If you've got any really thin blankets that you don't use anymore, just pop them over. Use a bit of bubble wrap, some cardboard. anything to keep that frost at bay. So I'm going to have a little dig around shed, see what else we've got in there. And if you want to see what we're doing this coming week, please hit that subscribe button, press that notifications bell. I look forward to seeing you then. Dig that fleece out.